And we always ask on our intake forms if you've had mold exposure. Known mold exposure. A lot of people have had mold exposure and just have no idea.
The difference is those mycotoxins, because of the burden, that burden lingers in the body long after the original exposure is gone, so we don't connect it. And then, what happens? Like anything spore-related, it grows. It reproduces. And then we have plentiful. And then we get that total body burden.
How come I have acne and my family doesn't? How come I have these chronic health issues and my friends don't? Like, that's something we hear a lot. How come I have and they don't?
Yeah. And it's hard to find out because we really don't test for the MTHFR gene variants, right? And that can impair methylation, which really impairs detoxification. Anytime anybody has ever asked me to do a detox, it goes bad. Like bad, right? So this is why we're going to approach it maybe with saunas, or we're going to approach it with walking or sweating.
This is Keep It Clear. Real conversations about skin, acne, and women's health without the overwhelm. Because you deserve answers that actually make sense. Today's episode starts now. But we've never done a full episode on just mold itself.
Yeah, because it's such a touchy subject.
It's a big topic.
It is. It's really it's a mycotoxin burden. And if we see potentially that chronic acne, and it's not going away with any type of therapeutic protocol, lifestyle changes, like the whole gamut, then what? Then we start to say, oh, what's underlying? What are you potentially exposed to? What does this look like?
And we always ask on our intake forms if you've had mold exposure. Known mold exposure. A lot of people have had mold exposure and just have no idea.
Well, how would they? Unless you see some kind of mold creeping up your shower or your walls, people are like, oh, what's this, right?
Yeah, and it's like sometimes people, especially if you're like in the health and wellness space, you'll kind of recognize it. But a lot of people, if they start getting sick, unexplained, they can't figure it out, we want to be looking at the mold in your workplace, in your home. Like we had that one guest on recently where she knew there was mold exposure because her dog started getting sick.
Right? Or their temperaments, or, like there's things, and they're smaller beings, right? Children that potentially are having chronic illnesses, right? Like chronic snotty noses, these things. You're like, what the heck? Like nobody else is sick and nobody is getting sick. Is the immune system really trying to work overtime, or is it suppressed and it just really can't do this? Or can the body not detoxify properly, right?
It's a big issue. And mold, right, is that organism. And then the mycotoxins, because you'll hear us say mycotoxins or mycotoxins, are the toxic compounds that gets produced that enter and burden your body.
Yeah, so so especially if we go in and try to kill them, they release an endotoxin, and that goes inside the body, and it creates further burden to the body. So we have to be very careful. This is why, making sure hydration's up, making sure we're having bowel movements, make sure that we're sleeping so that we can detox, because all of this is correlated.
Right. Because the thing is mold, we can be exposed to it just like chemicals in our environment. Like you really can't get away from it in the society that we live in today. It's everywhere. So it's like, how can we help how can we help our body get rid of it, support it? Because exposure can come from obvious places like water damage in buildings, like I've had clients being like, oh, like our bathroom leaked and we ripped out the wall and there was crazy amounts of mold. And I was the only one in the family that got sick. So we'll often see that in families where there's one person that's continuously sick. But it's also becoming from certain foods. You can be seeing it in corn. You can be seeing it in peanuts, coffee, conventionally grown grains, and even supplements.
Even plant soil. The soil that you plant your plants in can have mold. So not to scare you, everyone's throwing out their plants now.
Everyone's like, I'm moving to Alaska. I'm out of here.
Yeah, the difference is those mycotoxins, because of the burden, that burden lingers in the body long after the original exposure is gone, so we don't connect it. And then, what happens? Like anything spore-related, it grows. It reproduces. And then we have plentiful. And then we get that total body burden, right? So that's where the gut, detox systems, immune system, hormones, they're those are all downstream, even though the symptoms are saying, look at me, this is what's happening. We're like, I call it like the silent symptom, like provoker is really what it is.
And the issue is that that burden can actually hang out in the body way long after your original exposure is gone. So even if you've cleaned up, you're like, oh, we got rid of that mold. You know, we switched to, I started eating different food, whatever it is. It can, those mycotoxins can still be in your body if we're not clearing them out.
So just because you've taken corn out as an example, it's still there. And you can see mold in corn. Look at the husk. The husk has these spots, right? Especially when it comes end of season and they're starting, the weather changes and stuff. It's very predominant. Peanuts, you know, on the outside, if you see the shell, you may not taste it, right? But again, it's coated. So when you open or crack the peanut, you're now exposed because we're taking our same fingers and ingesting it.
Or the spores break open and you inhale them. And the thing with peanuts is they can actually be very susceptible to an invisible mold, an aflatoxin. And, you know, it's not to say, oh my gosh, I can never eat a peanut again, but it's like, can you be making sure you're buying organically grown peanuts? Like, it doesn't take the mold risk away completely, but at least there's a better farming mechanism in place. But again, it's like, what can you do to lessen that exposure?
Yeah, exactly. Peanuts are left in silos too, right? So if there's any moisture, they're just put in there. So it's an easy environment. And we're not saying like all peanuts or whatever. We're just trying to say like, you know, potentially, hey, like let's just be cautious of what we could be contaminated towards, right?
And that's why you'll see like there's a big, you know, push on social media. Anytime you'll post about coffee, sounds like, well, you can't be drinking coffee because there's mold. Okay, well, can we be getting an organic coffee? Can we be getting a mold-free coffee? Like there's actual coffees on the market that are tested for mold.
Yeah. So it's not about, you know, bursting your bubble. It's about awareness, right? And how I understand it is, you know, potentially maybe I kind of know a little thing here or there, is it's the small, slow efforts that take the whole load off the body, the whole stress compound off the body, right? Mold is a beast. Like,
yes,
there are multiple protocols that you're going to be doing.
This isn't a quick 30-day turnaround.
Well, I mean, I should also say it depends on the species.
For sure.
Right?
How systemic, how intensive, the levels. However, rule of thumb, it ain't going to be quick.
Well, that's because those mycotoxins, they're directly toxic to that gut lining. And we need that gut lining for the quality of our overall digestion. So it's going to be a major driver of that intestinal permeability. So, you know, people hear the word leaky gut and they're like, oh yeah, that's what it makes, right? So anytime that we have that exposure, they have the ability to disrupt the gut microbiome. Because what has it happened? Kills off the beneficial bacteria, allowing the pathogenic bacteria and the yeast to take over. So now we're thriving. And mold and yeast are besties.
Besties.
Let me tell you, right? So really how I want to say this is a disrupted gut equals increased systemic inflammation, which equals chronic skin flares that really don't respond to those topical approaches. To maybe it's not responding fully to when you go in and you dig. Also, are you still in the exposure?
It's such an underlooked thing, right? And people are like, oh, I've got issues, but I'm doing all these gut things and my gut's not getting better.
Yeah. And because mold can colonize, the gut itself produces toxins internally, like we're talking those endotoxins, right? So this is separate from that environmental exposure. And again, that's often missed. Like, I really think that, I don't like to say it like this, but like mold's like, you know, that silent killer. You know, we know smoking. Okay, listen.
Mold.
Right?
Right there.
Yeah, right? But mold, when we don't see it, and then we have the gut-liver axis, that matters for sure because a damaged gut sends more toxins to the liver, creating an upstream traffic jam. And then what happens? More pressure and stress on the body.
More skin issues, more breakouts.
A GI map, sometimes we can see those mold-related markers, right? Organic acids.
Because it's looking at like microbiome. It's looking at the dysbiosis. Is there dysbiosis? Is there leaky gut? Is there inflammation? So GI map can be a really great place to start, because if you're like, hey, well, oh my gosh, how do I know if I have mycotoxins? There's also specific mycotoxin tests. So while GI map's going to be showing you those markers, dysbiosis be, hey, something is going on. You could be doing, say, a mycotox panel that's going to be looking at different mycotoxins in the body. Or, there's one that we really love from Vibrant Wellness. And it's like a full panel looking at microtox, but it's looking at like forever chemicals, parabens, heavy metals. Like, it's a really cool panel. So if you want any three of those, I'll link them in the show notes so you can check them out.
Yeah, and you can get a single one. You can just get mycotox, right? Even if some people come in with like organic acid tests, the thing is there it can show based on what's living if there's potential to that mode exposure, because they thrive in that specific colony, right? Here, when we talk about the detox pathways and the liver, because everybody loves the liver.
We love talking about the liver.
Right. So if we know the liver is a primary organ for clearing the mycotoxins, but it's also where hormones get processed and eliminated too. Which one's going to take precedence? So when people say, oh my gosh, it's my hormones, it's this, we're like, okay. And again, please remember, we've probably all been exposed to mold at some level. All right, so Katie lives in the Niagara Peninsula, and we know that as the Vineland, meaning it is a high producer of grapes for wine.
And orchards. We have an insane amount of like everywhere in the Niagara Peninsula. There's hundreds and hundreds of wineries here in Niagara. And the entire Niagara Peninsula is part of we have a big part of the Greenbelt here. A very good growing area. So we're talking like stone fruits, like peaches and apples. And we got vineyards. We have cornfields and soy fields. Like, I am surrounded.
All I'm hearing is we have cadmium. And we probably have lead. I know in that area does have lead. So, and then lead is feeding those orchards. So, and now when we have heavy metals, add a little bit of mold and we've just got a party.
Yeah, and I live in the country. So I live rurally in Niagara. And
I'm pretty sure there's corn stalks in your backyard.
It's not in my backyard. It's a house over. So...
Just saying, right?
I know, but for me, like, it doesn't matter where I go on the Niagara Peninsula. My husband's tied to his job here. So so then I need to be looking at how can I offset this for my family?
Exactly. And we have to, especially when we're just looking at skin, right? When the liver's overwhelmed by any toxic load, hormone clearance is not even on the radar. So this is where skin problems absolutely can start. So androgens like testosterone and DHT. So DHT is the mother load hormone. So if we have DHT, like a 5A DHT, then I'm going to say your skin acne is 100% connected to sex hormones, right?
Mm-hmm. We may even be seeing hair loss.
Or extra hair for women where we don't want it. Like, are we growing a stash, sideburns,
right?
Hair
where you don't want it and hair where you want it. And no hair where you want it.
So we don't want, testosterone and DHT recirculating in the blood, right? We need it being cleared. Mm-hmm. So then we get the excessive sebum production, we get clogged pores, we get acne. So all of these things, and those mycotoxins, they are potent glutathione depleters. So your body makes glutathione. It also requires 4 molecules of selenium to make the glutathione. So this is why we have to eat variety and rotation. And glutathione is, again, like you just said, the master antioxidant. So it's everything keeping things flowing, right? So this is the critical phase for liver 2. So phase 2 of the liver detox. This is why if we have mold toxicity, if we have heavy metal interplay, we don't start messing around and pushing phase 2, right? We need to start seeing what are the precursors to even help glutathione, because less glutathione is going to increase oxidative stress in the skin. Potentially, it's going to do that slower turnover repair and then more inflammation. So again, supporting detox isn't about doing a cleanse. It's about giving the liver those raw materials it needs. So potentially, do we need B vitamins like 2, 6, 12, folate B9, right? Glycine. sulfur-rich foods, broccoli, garlic, eggs, liberators even. Doesn't mean we have to supplement. It means, what are we, like, let's get in with the foods first.
Give your body knows how to use nutrients from foods. There's cofactors in there. They know how to absorb it.
Yeah. I mean, there's binders that we can use. But again, I'm not even going to go into that. And why? Is because we need to, again, address the lifestyle and address the environment. Because if you go in and you open that liver in the same environment, you're just like, it's just like an open door going, oh, everybody come in. Everybody join me. Yeah, so we don't need the whole chaos of everything.
And then when we're looking at those mycotoxins, fun fact, they're classified as endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors aren't good. We don't want those because we're going to see endocrine disruptors in our personal care products and different chemicals because what happens is they actually bind to your hormone receptors. They mimic or block estrogen. So if that gets impacted, maybe we're dealing with a little bit of the whole estrogen dominance. Maybe our progesterone's getting pushed down a little bit. Maybe we're getting more of those elevated androgens, which we all know are driving acne.
Yeah. And so you can see this becomes a little bit of a muddled mess. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, I cannot name any of these. I cannot say these words of these mold spores.
There's so many mold spores.
So many, right? At the end of the day is we have to watch because mold triggers a chronic low-grade stress response. So if you already have a busy lifestyle or you have, a whole bunch of symptoms and they're cascading and mold is just that low-grade stress response. Now we have gasoline on the fire and that can increase that cortisol. It's going to increase DHEA, it can increase androgen output and then more acne. If we can't clear out hormones, if we have any congestion with even emulsifying our fats, any of this, more compounded triggers. So you can start to see this becomes a ball of yarn given to a cat. That's what it looks like. Have you ever tried that?
That gives my anxiety stress. Giving a ball of yarn to a cat.
It's like a knot in a necklace. How long does it take to get that stupid knot out?
I have like 5 necklaces upstairs that's just sitting there because of that.
So when we talk about the whole hormones, it's really interesting because chronically elevated cortisol also suppresses progesterone production. And that's going to compete for the same precursor, making hormonal imbalance worse. So when Katie and I say, yes, and, oh, it's hormonal, yes, and. We might not be saying it's just sex hormones because we already said that's way downstream. The liver's already had a role. Digestion's already had a role. There's, potentially environmental factors have had a role. So, there's different minerals. Definitely selenium, sulfur base. We're looking at zinc, iron. They all play a role in detoxification. And they're never talked about. And I'm not going to go into detail here because it's not about blind supplementation because you could be potentially pushing oxidative stress up or potentially putting yourself more in an aggressive state of clearing phase 2 liver detox. This is why we say, please, please, please work with somebody. Just do not assume that you need a detox.
Yeah, this is not something you want to just go in internet search or send into Claude AI, whatever it is, because if you don't know what you're working with, you can't be using, you need to know what you're working with. So you're putting the right supplements because certain supplements may make it worse. It may recirculate. Are your lifestyle habits? There's so much that needs to be taken into consideration in order to start clearing mold out of your system. This is not a one-size-fits-all Google a protocol approach.
No, this is serious. You don't work alone. I wouldn't even put myself on a mold protocol. I may create it. I may put all the supplements I think, and then I'm going to go vet it through somebody else that's a professional, like a naturopath or, a mold specialist, because this is key. You don't want to be messing. One I definitely love is chronic sinus congestion or reoccurring infections.
Constantly, like you said, kid with a constant runny nose, constant sinus infections, can't get rid of them.
Chemical sensitivities. So, hey, if somebody puts perfume on, I'm notorious for this. Certain cleaning products or perfumes, I say to the kids, spray it outside. That nail polish, I cannot handle nail polish.
Hairspray.
Oh, I can do hairspray over that, right?
But my dad used to make me do it outside.
Hairspray?
Spray your hairspray and do your nails outside in the garage.
Well, I could see you being excessive, so that makes sense.
I was extra, let's be real.
Did you? You were not born until the late 80s, so you didn't probably have the full T's. But you had the crimper, didn't you?
Oh, I had
Early
a
90s?
crimper. Oh yeah, I had a crimper. I had like a small crimp and a big crimp.
Okay, so you definitely needed your hairspray bottle replenished every
and
week.
I was using an actual clothing iron, like an actual iron on an ironing board to straighten my hair.
What about histamine reactions? Flushing, hives, itching, redness doesn't go away.
I think histamine is such an under talked about thing. I've actually talked about 2 family members about histamines in the last like 72 hours.
Yeah, especially look at their environment again, right? But that histamine mold, that overlap is real. The mycotoxins that can trigger that mast cell activation and the histamine releases. And that's going to show up on the skin, redness, flushing, inflammatory breakouts, right? But there are people that are more susceptible than people, because it's like, well, we all live in the same house.
How come I have acne and my family doesn't? How come I have these chronic health issues and my friends don't? Like, that's something we hear a lot. How come I have and they don't?
Yeah. And it's hard to find out because we really don't test for the MTHFR gene variants, right?
Nope, not often.
And that can impair methylation, which really impairs detoxification. I have a thyroid issue. Do I have an impaired MTHFR? Yes. Anytime anybody has ever asked me to do a detox, it goes bad, like bad, right? So this is why we're going to approach it maybe with saunas, or we're going to approach it with walking or sweating. If somebody has a genetically slow phase 2 liver detox, anybody with chronic stress, anybody out there? Chronic stress?
Yep.
Anybody
Gut dysbiosis?
Compromise? Yeah. Anything? Or I don't know, does everybody have a really good nutrient status?
Nope.
So this is who's most susceptible.
And the thing is, when you have those people that they're all living in the same house, right? Family of 4 living in the same moldy house, but only one person is getting symptoms. We have to remember there's a bunch of different things at play. Different genetics, your gut resiliency, what's going on in your gut microbiome, your nutrient status, your stress load. Like, you are an unique individual. And just because you live in the same house and eat the same foods doesn't mean you're all going to have the same issues. Every single person, you think about the medications you've taken over your life, what you've been exposed to, all of that creates your health bucket. And it could just be that in your family, you're the one where this health bucket is real full and those symptoms are coming out.
Exactly. So we just look at it as, do we potentially have mold and mycotoxins inside the body? This is more, we're going here later when other interventions haven't fully worked. Fair. We're looking at that gut detox hormone triangle, right? We're looking at even the HMA, that zinc depletion. How many people come back with biounavailable or chronically low zinc? So many, right? Yeah, and zinc, hydrochloric acid, right? So we need to be able to break down our foods, break down our minerals so that we can use them so that we can even combat this stuff. But again, first and foremost, look at your environment, look at your products, look at the things you are consuming, because we have to go and get rid of those first.
Absolutely. When I wish we could say, hey, you just got to go and take these supplements and do this. It's going to be as easy as that. But you can really start doing this by looking at your exposures in your day-to-day. If you want to know if there's mold in your house, there's different, Google in your area, different places that can come and check for mold exposure as well. If you work in a workplace and you think it might be a contributing factor, go and talk to, HR, see what they can be testing in there. And then just really working to, again, optimize your nutrition, making sure you're eating enough foods and those detoxification supportive foods, giving your body the raw materials it needs to start doing its job better.
The other thing is, if you have black mold, say, in your shower and stuff, please don't get out the bleach. In fact, vinegar combats that more. And then people think, let me just open my window. And no, we don't need any extra air. We don't need to feed it. We don't need to allow it to stir. So in fact, using your fan and keeping the door shut is a better opportunity at, combating until you can get professionals in.
Absolutely. And remember, this isn't something you want to just go and start to Google. So if you do need help with this, remember, I linked everything in the show notes of if you want to go and get mold tests, or if you just need a practitioner. This is where the Clear Skin Solution would come in really handy, because we can be there, we can guide you, we can look at your HMA, your minerals, see where those burdens are in the body and start supporting. And then should we think, hey, maybe there is a mold issue, we'll always be like, hey, maybe this would be something to consider.
Exactly.
All right, everybody. Another episode here on Keep It Clear. If you have any questions, you got insights, you just want to, send me a DM, go over, send me a DM. Not Cris, she doesn't check her Instagram. I would love to know how you're enjoying the episodes, but we will see you next week on Keep It Clear.